FreeCAD 1.0 was just released today, and I highly recommend you give it a try with your next CAD project. I started designing a new arcade machine in the past month and I decided to take a leap and move from using Autodesk Fusion to using FreeCAD. I've been designing and building my own arcade machines for about 3 years now. This new design that I'm making is an improvement onto the one I exhibited at Open Source earlier this year. I'll go over this design in more detail in a future video, but I just want to talk about how I started using FreeCAD and how excited I am that it's finally reached 1.0. I've been slowly moving everything I do over to Linux, and soon the only thing I was booting into Windows to do was to run Fusion, which they currently do not support Linux for. So I started looking for alternative CAD software. I found some lists, and on them was a CAD called Ondsel. I looked into Ondsel and I found that they were improving on FreeCAD by helping to contribute features that the community wanted, while also providing some of the cloud services that we've come to expect from a lot of our software, namely being Ondsel Lens, which allows users to upload files to a cloud service and share them with the team and access them anywhere. I paid for the service and got a little bit of value out of it, but it would probably be much more useful if you're working on a large team. Unfortunately, at the time of making this video, Ondsel is currently shutting down. They say this was due to product market fit issues. Due to this, I had to switch over to using FreeCAD itself, which isn't very hard because they're very similar. Onsel's basically adding a few extensions to improve UI while also adding their cloud Onsel Lens feature. Since my arcades are made out of bent sheet metal, I found myself primarily using the sheet metal workbench, which Onsel conveniently bundled into their software. When I moved from Onsel to FreeCAD, I had to install this workbench again while also installing the UI add-ons that I was used to from Onsel. Before I go any further with this video, just keep in mind that I have taken one formal course in CAD software. That was with CATIA. The vast majority of my experience is doing things on my own, mostly designing parts to be 3D printed for various projects and also designing these sheet metal arcades. Once I'd made the switch from Onsel to FreeCAD, I was using Release Candidate 2 for FreeCAD 1.0. Since I designed the last machine in Autodesk Fusion, I had to completely remake all of these parts from scratch while making some improvements from the old version, notably adding a bezel cover, changing the mounting hole pattern for the various PCBs, and using press-fit studs to attach the sides instead of screws. I'll go more detail into this in a future video about these arcades, but I ended up having to make several parts and assembled them to several sub-assemblies and had one final large assembly of the sub-assemblies of the full arcade. I was able to complete the full arcade design, although not without a few hiccups. Sometimes when I edited a sketch that was depended on by features down the tree, the later features would lose track of where they were supposed to be, and I'd have to reconstrain them. I believe this is the topological naming problem, which I know in Release Candidate 2 they took some steps to mitigate, and I believe for the 1.0 release they took some additional steps to mitigate the problem. This also seemed to appear when I assembled parts and sub-assemblies as well. I would attach something, maybe make a change on a part, and then when I went back to the assembly, it would be attached to the wrong feature. Part of a learning curve for me was also getting used to FreeCAD's UI. Fusion, oftentimes you're adding a sketch feature or you're adding another, like a 3D feature. It'll give you a nice pop-up interface to directly edit these values. And to me, it's very clear what most of these values do. In FreeCAD, I found that this oftentimes was the case. It did give a pop-up that you'd enter in the value and it would be pretty self-explanatory. But oftentimes, especially in the sheet metal workbench, I'd have to make the feature first and then go to the property editor and change some values to get the feature the way I wanted it to be. I wasn't used to this, but I was able to learn how to do what I wanted through the FreeCAD wiki and also the forums. So if you're just coming in and using FreeCAD for the first time, maybe expect to have a browser window open another monitor to reference some additional resources. In general, my workflow for this project was create a sheet metal part and make bends in the sheet metal workbench, make holes in the part design workbench, then round all the sharp corners with the fillet tool in the part design workbench, then go to the assembly workbench and create a subassembly with my custom parts and whatever fasteners I was using, then add to the final assembly where I would joint them together and add fasteners to hold the subassemblies together. I plan on uploading a more detailed video about why I'm making these arcades and the features that they have, so look out for that. But in conclusion, I just want to say that FreeCAD is now my CAD of choice for my personal projects. I think there's still a lot of improvement that can be made, of course, but I think it is there and usable, and it is well worth the cost, which is free. However, since Ondsel was discontinued and I no longer need to pay for it, I am now started sponsoring FreeCAD on GitHub. And I recommend you do so as well if you like the software. If you'd like to try it, you can get it from the FreeCAD GitHub's releases page, or you can get it from their website for Windows, Mac, and Linux. For articles about electronics, including IoT, PCB design, and gaming hardware, you can check out metalmancy.tech. If you'd like to be part of our community or have some questions for me about anything in this video or any of my other videos, you can join our Discord server. All of these will be linked in the description of this video. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to be notified about that arcade video and future videos that I will upload here, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you then.